Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Welcome, one and all, to Monday Football Monday here on the SB Nation NFL Show. A reminder before we take any more steps forward that this show is brought to you by our friends at DraftKings. DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today and use code SBNFL for a special offer when you sign up. That is code SBNFL only at DraftKings Sportsbook. As noted, this is Monday Football Monday on the SB Nation NFL Show. You can subscribe to the SB Nation NFL Show wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a rating, write a review. Those things always make us happy. You can watch this show if that is your chosen medium on the SB Nation NFL YouTube channel. Subscribe there as well. If you do, you will see, hear, and perhaps smell the stylings of the fantastic Rachelle Prevet. She is on the ones and twos. I am RJ Ochoa, and with me, as always, from SBNation.com are Mark Schofield and JP Acosta. JP, there are no more undefeated teams left in the NFL. Mercury Morris and the rest of the 1972 Miami Dolphins, who maybe you've never heard of because sometimes there are things that happen before your lifetime. They're toasting the champagne today.
Have you ever considered that 1972 Miami Dolphins are sports' biggest haters? They never are celebrating when a team goes undefeated. They're always waiting for that one loss so then they can just fire off the photo of them all holding champagne. It's incredible hate and energy. I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm just saying, like, they might be the biggest haters in any sport.
Mark, did you hate Mercury Morris specifically during the run that in 2007 that the Patriots had? Because he was kind of outspoken.
He was very outspoken during that run. And I think that goes to JP's point that they are perhaps sports' biggest haters. And even though it kind of, obviously at the time, rubbed me the wrong way, I appreciate it. Like, look, you were the last team to accomplish something.
They're the only team, not last
the only
team.
Okay, yeah. Only team to ever have done something in NFL history. Like, certainly. Like, lean into it. I love it. I appreciate it. And so I think, is this the earliest in recent memory that they've gotten to do this?
I think so. Yeah. Like, maybe you're right. Maybe the champagne like chills till November most years.
Yeah.
But yeah, because last year the Eagles were something like 12-0. The Cardinals, I think, got to 7 or 9-0 in 21.
Right.
Was it the Steelers in 20 that were like the biggest frauds of all time? And
they were like winning games just in absolute horrific fashion. And you all knew, like, at some point the wheels were going to come off. Yeah.
JP, did you know that there was I think it was a FedEx, it might have been UPS commercial in the spring of 2008 where Mercury Morris sent a football that had like sticky on it to Eli Manning in the commercial. And he was like, throw this in the Super Bowl. And it was like a play on the David Tyree thing. Did you know that commercial existed?
No, I didn't.
Wow.
But I erased that from my memory too.
Mark, I'm sorry. I really hated that Patriots team. I mean, like, I grew to respect the organization, but I really, really hated that team. So
yeah, I mean, most people did. I get it.
There are no 2007 New England Patriots here. As mentioned, the final undefeated teams did fall on Sunday. We are going to discuss all of the Sunday action and offer a brief preview of Monday Night Football, where America's team will be in action against the Los Angeles Chargers. I guess we have to start, Mark, with one of those undefeated teams. I mentioned the Philadelphia Eagles. They were the last undefeated team to fall a year ago. They fell on Sunday for the first time ever to the New York Jets. The Jets had never gotten a win. Our own Brandon Gouton mentioned to me this was the battle of the Green Nations. We have Gang Green Nation at SB Nation. That a lot of nations here. We're just
a lot of nations.
Yeah, we're the real UN.
Right.
But Gang Green Nation represents the New York Jets. Bleeding Green Nation represents the Philadelphia Eagles. But Gang Green Nation are the happy ones today, Mark, on Monday morning after the 20-14 win for the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, look, watching that game yesterday and we rewatching it this morning, it seemed like everything that could go wrong for Philly did. I mean, you have 3 interceptions from Hurts, only one of which I think was really on him. The first 2, you get like a dropped tight end screen goes through Goddard's hands, and you get your backup right tackle is in the game. He gets blown up. You get a deflected pass and an interception. The third interception, he's just like stared it down. Like, that was on him. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. I think, if you're Philly, you're going to have games like this. You're going to have games where the wheels just completely come off, and you can almost look at it like the fact that they were even in that game at the end kind of says something about them. You wait to hear on Lane Johnson and how he's going to be going forward, because losing him, I think, would be a problem for them because it removes their, big ace card, right? The one we talked about, the one JP talked about last week, which is you might have the best position group in football in that offensive line. But if it's not going to be the 5 you expect to see, that's going to hurt them a lot. So, yeah, that's the sort of ego side of it. For the Jets, I mean, Now you might think maybe they're a feisty team, but I can't take a team that lost to Mac Jones seriously. I'm sorry. I just can't do it just yet. Okay. So the defense is great. You're down your sauces out, you're down your top two corners, and you still find a way to win this game. Yeah, that's nice, but you still lost to Mac Jones. So there is that.
If we were to go back to week 1 and say the Jets would be 500 entering their bye week without Aaron Rodgers, I think we would have all said that person who said that was crazy. So it's really impressive, especially by this defense and this defensive line, who is playing like one of the best in football. Bryce Huff is a designated pass rusher, and I believe he has one of the highest pressure rates in the NFL. He's playing awesome. Zach Wilson, despite having still a lot of major flaws, he looks better than he did last year, which of course it's not hard, but that's important. From the Eagles' perspective, this is why you miss Lane Johnson. Like that's really the biggest thing, you know. I think there are a lot of times where the last year Eagles questions still kind of came up as to like, how will Jalen Hurts adjust to blitzing and adjust to pressure? I think there are still going to be a lot of questions about trying to find an in-between game for this offense outside of the run game and the deep vertical passes. But this is a great win by the Jets. You know, this is kind of I'm not going to say it's like a statement win, but it's a monumental one for a Jets team that, like I said, now is 500 entering the bye week, and they're all posting videos of Aaron Rodgers throwing footballs during pregame, and everybody's going to get excited for him to say that he's just not coming back to the rest of the
season. I told you both and Rachel that I spent the weekend in Austin, and the weather was just incredible. And like, I mean, Mark, you experienced fall weather in a different way than most of us, Rachel, you as well. But that first like bit when you haven't had it in a long time is this just like incredibly refreshing sort of feeling. You feel reborn, and that's what I have to imagine life is like for the Jets now. Like there's hope. Like JP, to your point, like what like 30 seconds into the week 1, like hope was gone forever, and you felt cursed, you know, beyond like multiple generations and lifetimes. But like, will they be a playoff team? I think we'd all probably bet against it, but like it's no longer like a impractical thing. It's no longer this like remote possibility. No, it's like well within range. Their first game out of the bye is against the Giants. I mean, like, can they not get north of 500 with that? I mean, after a bye week to kind of, you know, this is their first opportunity to get their head above water, given everything that happened throughout the first 6 weeks of the season. It was a huge win for them. I agree with that. I totally understand the Lane Johnson side of things. Y'all know I've been chomping at the bit to like hate on the Eagles for the first time this season. They had not played sound football, right? They'd been winning, and kudos to them. That is the mark of a great team. It felt like that kind of caught up to them in this particular game. And their schedule coming up is really difficult, Mark. This, you have to wonder, I mean, they were never going to be as good as last year because they were incredible last year. I mean, they had one of the most unbelievable regular seasons and, you know, early parts of the playoff runs that any team ever had. Shout out even to Mercury Morris's Dolphins. But like, this is, you know, this is maybe life for the Eagles, where they have to figure out how to adjust to different things. It's not always going to be smooth sailing. And I mean, look, I think it's stupid to poke at interception numbers, but Jimmy Garoppolo is the only quarterback in the NFL with more interceptions than Jalen Hurts. He's tied with your boy Mac Jones. Mark.
Yeah, and like you said, RJ, their schedule coming up is brutal. I mean, obviously you get Miami this week, so that's going to be a big one. You get Washington on the road, then you get Dallas, you get Kansas City, you get Buffalo, you get San Francisco, you get Dallas. Like, that's a really, really, really tough stretch, you know. And I think JP's point about finding out like the middle part of this offense, the intermediate part of this offense. Like, yes, you've got run game elements. Yes, you've got the vertical shot play elements and the deep stuff in the passing game. But what's that in between for this offense? That was something that they had last year at times. You know, Hurts' ability to attack the middle of the field was a question mark coming into last season. They figured it out last year. It's not there for them right now. And I know that a lot of Eagles fans are extremely frustrated with play calling. Obviously, you get a new play caller with Shane Steichen in Indianapolis. You know, Brian Johnson has been up for some criticism the past couple of weeks leading into this game, and so I think that's certainly something to watch. Red zone inefficiency, red zone woes are, you know, and maybe this is a big picture item for the NFL writ large. Scoring felt really down yesterday. I know we've talked about Dallas and their red zone woes. Certainly the same could be said for Philadelphia, who was like number 3 in the NFL last year, red zone scoring. They're now like in the bottom third of the league right now. So that's something they've got to figure it out. They tend to get behind the sticks in red zone situations, 3rd and long and things like that. interception numbers aren't great. Like there are things that they have to iron out. I still think that they're going to be okay, but this schedule coming up is brutal.
Yeah, ultimately they'll be fine, I think.
Boom.
I do have questions about like, what does this offense look like without Lane Johnson, who is arguably the best and most important offensive lineman in the league? You know, like he allows them to do so much where you can slide protection towards any of the guards or anywhere else and just forget about the right side of the ball. It's kind of like having an elite cornerback. You can forget about the right side of the line because you have Lane Johnson. But now that you might not have him, depending on how long he's going to be out, especially with this rough part of the schedule coming up, what does this offense look like is going to be a major question.
Let's head to Cleveland, where the other undefeated team fell. They actually fell first, leaving Philly as the lone one for about 3 hours. Mark, the San Francisco 49ers looked mortal just 1 week after the exact and total opposite. And this is a really interesting win for the Cleveland Browns, given that Deshaun Watson was not a part of it. This was obviously the Browns defense kind of flexing. Now, San Francisco did deal with the injury bug all over the place. Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams for a spell. But this was Kyle Shanahan's game plan not going to total and complete fruition, which is normally the case on a given NFL day.
Yeah, and what's weird is Jim Schwartz kind of has his number. I mean, I saw it's 1-8, 1-9. Jim Schwartz defensive teams against Kyle Shanahan over their run in the NFL, which is fascinating to think about. This Cleveland defense is just relentless. Like I was rewatching this game this morning, and I think I saw like 35 plays or something where Purdy was under pressure within a second of the snap. Like, and a lot of these, they brought pressure at times, they brought numbers at times, but a lot of them were just, they're getting after it with 4, and they've got the personnel, Cleveland, that can do that. And it's the old tried and true, right? Well, how do you stop a team? Well, if you can get pressure with 4, it's like the easiest, most crutch like answer you can get pressure with 4, but Cleveland can certainly do that. They also seem to figure out, and San Francisco has a great screen game with all the players they have, with Kittle, with Juszczyk, with the different things they can do in the screen game. They seemed ready for those. There was a play they were trying to set up a screen to Juszczyk, and JOK was like sitting on it, like waiting for it. And he was all over the field too. He was so fun to watch yesterday. And Purdy ended up getting sacked. And so I think the fear, if you're San Francisco, yes, the injuries and stuff are something. The fear is that this might have given the quote-unquote blueprint. The other thing we love to say, this is the blueprint on how to beat the team. The problem for the other 31 teams that might try this, though, they're not Cleveland. Cleveland's defense is tremendously talented.
I'm not selling any of my Myles Garrett DPOY stock after this game. In fact, I might be adding more. He didn't have a sack in the Niners game, but he was impactful on every snap of the game. Like Mark said, Jim Schwartz is kind of like, he's morphed this defense into one that is arguably the best in the league. One thing that stood out to me about this game is how they were so willing to live in man coverage against the Niners receivers. And it fits because they have invested a lot of money, a lot of high draft picks. You think Greg Newsome, Denzel Ward, Juan Thornhill just got paid by them this offseason. Martin Emerson. You think about all those guys they have invested draft picks into. It makes sense that they want to play a lot of man coverage. You have the dudes to. And Jim Schwartz is like, one thing that's changed about this Browns defense is they're allowing their best athletes and their best players to go and be dudes. Go play man. You are the best athletes on this field. Go prove it. So, like you said, I don't know if this is like a blueprint to beat the 49ers because not every team's going to have a Myles Garrett. But if the Niners do play games without Trent Williams and Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel for an extended period of time, it will be interesting to see what Brock Purdy looks like, because Brock Purdy looked less like the world-beaten hero for the past 5 weeks and more just like Shanahan quarterback.
Yeah, this looked a little bit like I think like the emblematic element was Brock Purdy was like, you got to go make a little bit happen on your own, Brock. And not to say that he can or he hasn't done anything like that to this point, I don't think would be fair. But this was like Brock, you just got to do something. Like everything is really ugly, and it didn't happen. And so that's a tough scene. I don't think
like he had a throw fourth quarter, like 13-16 mark. He's flushed to the right, hits Ayuk on the move, and it's right there. It's a catchable ball, and it's dropped. And even with all of this, what we said is true. they had a game-winning field goal attempt. Like,
That's true.
And yes, there was a kind of a sketchy DPI call on that final drive, but look, he had his last throw to Jennings was on 3rd and 2. He had Myles Garrett in his chops, and he put it right where it needed to be to get themselves into that field goal range. He had another throw to Ayuk that was a pretty good ball on that drive. Like, it was all basically bad from Purdy. It wasn't a great game at all. He seemed flustered. He seemed pressured. He seemed rattled. That internal clock was sped up, as it would be when you've got Myles Garrett in your face on 30 snaps or something like that. And he still put him in a position to win. Like, certainly not a game that the people that have been saying Brock Purdy is one of the NFL elites are going to point to, but he put them he still had him in a position to win.
I know there are a lot of people who are, anxious to denounce Brock Purdy as an NFL player. And I think that would be a ridiculous overreaction based on what we saw. Because again, like, it's understandable to be flummoxed by the Browns defense. I mean, and to your point, Mark, like, even in spite of that, like, they had an opportunity to win. And you could argue they didn't directly lose it because of him. Whatever. I mean, we're getting into the weeds here, but yeah, like JP, you said you weren't selling Myles Garrett stock. I wouldn't sell Brock Purdy stock. I wouldn't sell San Francisco stock at all. This was just an impressive effort by Cleveland, which is the other side of this discussion, JP. I don't mean to do the like, oh, the Deshaun Watson trade wasn't worth it, narrative, blah, blah. But like, man, you found a way to like, this is the most impressive Browns win since what? The playoff win against Pittsburgh? I mean, seriously. And like, first of all, PJ Walker, like Twitter favorite, everybody loves PJ Walker. So this was super cool. But man, this is kind of a tough scene if you're the Browns for like your overall team structure, that you were able to pull this off. It's a weird win in that sense.
Yeah, but I also kind of think PJ Walker didn't play that great.
Disrespect.
Like, wow. I love PJ Walker. He didn't necessarily make a lot of plays. There was the jump ball to Amari Cooper where Amari Cooper reminder, the Cowboys traded a 5th round pick.
What did a 5th round pick?
Where does Dame Lillard play basketball, JP?
They traded a 5th round pick for Amari Cooper, and now he's dunking on San Francisco DBs, which is something the Cowboys evidently don't have. But anyway, I think they had PJ Walker he looked like a backup quarterback against the Niners defense, and sometimes like football's a lot of odds, sometimes the odds are in your favor. Sometimes Amari Cooper is going to make those catches and be like an absolutely insane receiver. It's just I'm not like, it's rough because of how poor Deshaun has looked. But I also think this game was more about the defense continuing to give the offense multiple chances at the dartboard. They gave them so many opportunities to figure it out. And then when they did, they took the lead.
Okay. So JP hates PJ Walker. I thought you would have loved his initials. I mean, wrong order, but you know what I mean? Like, close enough, I thought, to earn your respect, but I guess I was wrong. Let's head down, Mark, to the best team in the state of Florida, the Miami Dolphins, who got the 42-21 win over the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers still winless, despite getting out to a 14-0 lead early on. Everybody was super ready, I think, to have some fun with this. But then the Dolphins offense just showed up. Tyreek Hill grabbed a phone, did a backflip. It was super cool. The Dolphins, Mark, again, Mercury Morris. What a day to be Mercury Morris, basically.
What a day. What a day for the Dolphins fans. I mean, yeah, I had the tweet in the drafts to send to my buddy Kyle Krabs, like, hey, you're going to lose to Bryce Young, but I didn't push send because, it was very early in the day, and I'm glad that I didn't. Miami's offense just so fast, so explosive. I think watching this game yesterday, Bryce Young made some throws in this game. Like, he made some throws in this game, both early and late after they were down. Like, the touchdown to Thielen was an absolutely perfect throw. Like, velocity, timing, had all the things you need, had to get it over the underneath defender. He had a throw, I think, late in the third quarter where, he opens to his left, comes back to Thielen and leads him away from the underneath defender. Like, I thought he played fairly well, and he's gotten better. Like, he had a really slow start, but he's gotten better since he's come back. And I think Carolina fans can breathe a little bit easier than they were, say, in September when it comes to Bryce Young. The only thing I am going to mention with respect to the Dolphins, yes, their record is fantastic. They have gotten their wins against teams that are a combined 5-23. Like, I'm just putting that out there. Like, the schedule, it is what it is. Like, that's fine. You can only play who you play. You beat the teams that you are on your schedule. That's great. They're atop the AFC East standings. That's fantastic. But you've beaten the Chargers, who were 2-2 going into tonight. the Patriots, the Broncos, and the Giants, who are all 1-5, and the Panthers, who are now 0-6. Like, I'm again, the schedule is what it is. They're a very explosive team. They've shown that they can, put up points in bunches and put up points quickly. But I'm just saying.
JP, number one, is Mark jaded? Number two, is Tua the front runner for MVP at this moment?
So on the first one, I kind of get where Mark is coming from.
Y'all are some haters this morning. Goodness.
I'm not done. But it's not just that they are beating bad teams. It's like the whole college football thing. We're like, oh, you have a weak schedule. It's not just they're playing a weak schedule. They're blasting these teams. Outside of the Patriots game where they only scored like 24, and you get the Bill Belichick bump. They put up 70 points on one of those teams. Like, that's not just like they're just barely getting by these teams. They're blasting these opponents. So I think it's a little bit more of the Dolphins' offense is very, very good and will give them opportunities to win the game. I still have a lot of questions about that defense, especially when it comes to defending the pass. If you can play a team that has enough to turn things into a shootout more consistently, I don't know. I don't know if this defense will be able to hold up. But the question is, do they have to? Do they have to hold up as much?
Well, so two of their next 3 games, JP, are against the Eagles and the Chiefs. So we'll get a chance to kind of learn that a little bit. But also quickly on that note, during the Sunday morning news dumps, was a report that Jalen Ramsey is much closer to a return than people would have initially thought. The first reports when he first got injured were December. So that helped shore things up in a technical and literal sense.
Yeah, it'll help. But, I still think the transition from Brian Flores to Vic Fangio style of defense is still taking effect on this team. I still worry about overall their defense, not only the pass, but, I think they do enough to break bad teams. And once they break bad teams, the offense just pours it on. We're going to see the next couple of weeks. We will see, especially when they play the Chiefs and the Eagles. As far as Tua, frontrunner MVP, I mean, yeah, I guess. Now it's like him, Jared Goff, and Christian McCaffrey.
There it is. Who'd you say?
What is the NFL?
Jared Goff.
What is happening right now?
I don't know.
I heard the opening moments of the latest Around the NFL podcast. They said that the NFL needed Sunday's results, with the Eagles and Niners losses of the teams that they came against. The season was starting to feel a little weird. It felt a little uneven. So I agree with that, but I think that is really exemplified by that point, JP, that Tua and Jared Goff are in the running. Speaking of, we might as well go. Mark, my first question to you: watching the Lions win 20-6 in Tampa Bay against the Creamsicles, did it feel like an old school NFC Central matchup?
Oh man, it did. It absolutely did. I half expected to hear Summerall and Madden. That was like a warm blanket for an old guy like me. It was absolutely fantastic to see. Jared Goff, though, he played very, very well in this game. Had some tremendous throws in this game. That passing game was really sort of clicking. It was fun to watch that passing game. Jared Goff on 34th downs, 10 of 14 for 176 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. An NFL passer rated of 153.3, which is near perfect. It's time to take the Lions for real. I mean, it's absolutely time to take the Lions for real. This was a day where, the run game wasn't quite clicking, so you get Goff putting up the kind of numbers that he did. Against a defense that can do some things. Their defense looked good, too. They were in Mayfield's face pretty much throughout this entire game, deflecting passes, getting some turnovers. This is a very fun Lions team to watch. And yes, as we said last week, Jared Goff is now in the MVP discussion.
I mean, yeah, they are. They're arguably one of the best teams in the NFL right now. They can beat you in so many different ways offensively. If you want to try a shootout, they can play those games. If you want to try and grind out a field possession game, they can do that. One of the things that really stands out to me about this team is just the overall vibes from this team are just awesome right now. You got Craig Reynolds throwing blocks 10 yards downfield and decleating DBs to help spring in a Monroe St. Brown touchdown. Jamison Williams came back and immediately caught a 40-yard touchdown pass, which was insanely funny. But to Mark's point, the defense played really well. And that was a question coming in this season about if the defense could put together consistent strings of good play. They put those together against a Buccaneers team that, of course, led by Baker Mayfield. We will give them the Baker Mayfield, the caveat there. But Baker Mayfield was playing pretty good football up until then. And they still have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Those two guys did not just cease to exist. And they only scored 6 points. This is a good team, like a capital G, good football team.
And also listen to their schedule the rest of the way. Okay. At Baltimore, home against the Raiders, at the Chargers, home against the Bears, home against the Packers, at New Orleans, at the Bears, home against the Broncos, at Minnesota, at Dallas, home against the Vikings. Those are all winnable games.
I mean, how many will they not be favored in, Mark?
By the time they get to Dallas, they could
maybe Dallas won. Maybe Baltimore this week, but that's all I could see.
By the time they get to Dallas, they could already be fighting for the 1 seed in the NFC.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that because this game was bumped to the afternoon. I don't know if I mentioned this on Friday. This was originally a noon game, but congrats to the Lions. They are really Andy Dufresne on the other side of the tunnel. They have made it to the good times to where the NFL wants you in the afternoon slot. And I saw Jeremy Reisman, who covers the Lions for us at SB Nation for Pride of Detroit. I saw him tweeting "Come on, Jets!" And I was obviously rooting for the Jets, from a Cowboys slant, but I was like, hell yeah, Jeremy! You're in the mix for the 1 seed. This is all rational and fair for the Lions at this point. JP, you mentioned the vibes. It is so rare that Twitter wants something to happen and then it blossoms and becomes I know that the Ravens on their early analytical moves and adjustments and things like that. There was this our Ravens movement on Twitter that kind of fizzled out. Rachel, please don't hold it against me. But everyone wanted the Lions to be good. Everybody. And nobody except for maybe not JP for Justice. You know what I mean? Everybody wanted the Lions to be good. And they are. They're realizing everyone's great ambitions for them. And it's not unfair to dream anything for them. Maybe there was this glass ceiling on them before, Mark, but they're here. They are a Super Bowl contending team, and that's not a bump we're giving them. It is tried and true.
Yeah, no, I mean, this feels legit. Now, as we just saw yesterday, things can change in the blink of an eye, so who knows? But this schedule that's coming up, and as JP said, the variety of ways that they can beat you, the way this defense has been playing well, I mean, these are all sort of the ingredients you want for a team that's going to make a run in this era of football.
They also aren't fully healthy.
Right.
They're missing a couple corners, and their offensive line has been banged up. They're still not fully healthy. So a fully healthy Lions team by the end of the season, yeah, this might be a Super Bowl contending team.
JP, you've dealt with enough disrespect, especially Mark bringing up Dame Lillard again. Really rude of him. Let's go to the Jaguars, who got a 37-20 win. The Colts have not won in Duval since when, JP? 2014?
2014. That was the first game Blake Bortles ever played as a Jaguar when he took over for Chad Henne.
Wow, that is really sad for the Colts that they cannot get this done, although they were a little bit up against it in this game, obviously, with Anthony Richardson not playing. We can get to that side of things, but super impressive outing from the Jaguars, JP. The Jaguars defense showing up. This is a Super Bowl contending team as well. They're realizing their potential that a lot of people had for them, proving last season in the second half wasn't this kind of fluke thing.
Yeah, I think people are going to look at the score and be like, oh, 37-20. This game was not as close as the score indicates. This game was a blowout. Real early. They were playing prevent defense midway through the third quarter. This defense is legit. They are so legit. They play so fast. Mike Caldwell has them running so many different varieties of pressures and coverages. Andre Cisco is playing like one of the best safeties in the league. He's might make a Pro Bowl at this rate. Josh Allen once again continues to be a terror for the Indianapolis Colts. I think the stat came out via Next Gen Stats that he just terrorizes Bernard Raymond the past 2 times they played the Colts. I think he has 38 pressures over 2 games. It's just bad against the Colts. The Jaguars just have their number. The offense looked good, and it kind of reinforces my thought that the London weeks were like Ted Lasso and like Amsterdam, because this offense looked a whole lot better on Sunday, but scary moment at the end with Trevor Lawrence going down, knee injury. They say he's day to day, but game's on Thursday against the Saints. And normally coming out of the London games, you have a bye week. The Jaguars elected to push their bye week a little later in the season, which they did last year too. But if this is a big game, it's Thursday Night Football, everybody's going to be watching. You hope Trevor's healthy, because God, I don't want to see CJ Beathard play football.
Mark, I'll just say the Jaguars, they have the Saints game and then the Steelers game, both on the road, but then the bye. Like, they could, if they're 5-3 at the bye, that's even being conservative here, but like the Jaguars are setting themselves up nicely.
Yeah, they are. And JP said it last week, and we saw it yesterday. This defense is fantastic. Like, JP said it might be one of the better defenses of the league. We saw that. Minshew looked uncomfortable almost from the first snap of this game. He had pressure at his face a lot. A lot of his misses were high because he had that pressure in his face. He was sailing some throws. Both of the first two interceptions were on high throws. They had a play. There was a sack that they got of Minshew in the third quarter where Indianapolis won 12 personnel. They had both tight ends in a win. Both tight ends chip and release. They only rushed forward. It doesn't matter. He's still sacked within like a second and a half. Like, that's how good this pass rush is right now. The scary moment with the MRI and Lawrence and the knee injury. Sounds like he's going to be okay, which is huge. But this defense is great. The offense looked great. They're like just like the Lions. Now, when you look around the rest of the AFC, you might have some teams at the top, but I think you put Jacksonville in there too.
JP, on the other side of this, Mark mentioned that Gardner Minshew was under duress all day long. I mentioned the Sunday morning reports. It seems possible that Anthony Richardson's rookie season may be over. Showed a lot of promise, showed a lot of excitement. Colts fans, I mentioned Andy Dufresne, have really been through it. I don't know if y'all know this, but Andrew Luck retired, and so Chris Ballard deserves like 4,000 chances to get this right. But man, the idea, JP, of a fan base, I know you don't pity the Colts fans, but like of having to wait until July, to see him again in any kind of serious action is just a huge bummer to consider.
Oh, let me play my little sad song on my sad violin.
You can feel for the fans. Like that would suck to go through.
I'm just kidding. It sucks because Anthony Richardson was playing really well. I think people are going to look at the injuries like, hey, maybe you should stop running, when no, this is just like, these are freak injuries that don't happen like every time he gets hit. He's not like glass bones, paper skin man. But can we stop making Gardner Minshew a thing? We have to let it go. Let Gardner Minshew go. He is not good. He plays really bad. He doesn't take any shots downfield unless the team is down 25. It's all just 2-yard passes, and he plays like a backup. I think people fell in love with Minshew during the Nick Foles, the Nick Foles Jaguars era, and 2020 when he was even in 2020 he was bad. That's why they went and drafted Trevor Lawrence, because he was bad. They won one game.
Everybody fell for the story, JP, like the character that he is. That's all that was. Like he's this like like if he played for the Buccaneers, he'd be like an even larger household name. You know what I mean? Like that's all people, and not to discredit his play, but that was what everybody loved.
And the mustache.
Comment says respect the stash. Like everybody loves the character.
I'm not respecting the mustache. I'm not. I don't have to. I've been down this road with Gardner Minshew before. I will not be fooled again. It sucks for the Colts because the defense isn't bad. Like, they have some dudes on that defense. The offense has some fun players, but it sucks when you constantly think you got the quarterback, and then the rookie season he's done for the rest of the year with a shoulder injury. It kind of feels like, especially for Colts fans, like you're seeing the same story over and over again, like a young quarterback getting absolutely destroyed by his own body. Again, I'm not really like too sad because you don't know true pain, Colts fans. You don't know true pain, but it sucks for Anthony Richardson.
And it's because the main thing he needed was reps, right? Like, he needed games. And if he's now on the shelf for the rest of this season, that's the worst case scenario for the Colts, because even if you're not winning, like, getting him starts, getting him reps, getting him live NFL action was the main goal of this season. So next year he has that kind of leap. Now you're setting that clock back a little bit.
To your point, Mark, the take is brewing for like this time next year, someone being like, look, this is really Anthony Richardson's rookie year. You know what I mean? Like, we need
I've got it in the drafts already. I mean, come on.
I got it locked and loaded.
Yeah.
Let's head to Cincinnati, where JP, the Bengals seem to have started their full climb out of their 0-2 hole. They are now 500. So kudos to them. 17-13, the final score. I thought the Seahawks would find a way, and they almost did. But the Bengals are gritty. Like, they deserve a lot of benefit of the doubt. They have proven that over the Joe Burrow era. Yeah, not a huge day for Jamar Chase, like last week, but the Bengals are kind of back.
It's uncomfortable, but they are winning games. That's the best thing. It doesn't matter if you win by 1 or you win by 100, as long as you put the W in the win column. This defense is really good. They are very, very good. Lou Anarumo is one of the best defensive coordinators in the league. And I don't think their pass rush gets enough credit because they don't have a lot of like superstar pass rushers. Trey Hendrickson rocks. Shout out to the FAU alum. But Sam Hubbard, BJ Hill, those guys getting after it. Miles Murphy playing really good in his rookie year. You have so many dudes who can win converting speed to power. And that's really where they want to be for a defense. They don't want to bend around the corner and try and force you into make a quick decision based on their speed. They're going to constrict the pocket. They're going to get you closer and closer, tighter and tighter until you either take a sack or you throw the ball for a poor decision, which is how Geno Smith turned the ball over a few times. Offense, like, look, man, it's just you're going to have to struggle a little bit. You know, until Joe Burrow is fully healthy, you're going to have these games like this where you get into the muck, where you get into like some real grimy football games. He's still he looked kind of good against the Cardinals last week. It still feels like he's trying to make his way back. But, he just does, even with the calf injury, even being fully healthy, his arm strength wasn't among the best in the league. So now with that hampered by a lower body injury, you kind of see it a little bit. But as long as you find ways to win, that's all that matters for the Bengals. You got to dig yourself out of this hole by just finding different ways to win.
Mark, I was bummed to see the Seahawks lose. This would have felt like a big boost in the belief in the Seahawks that I had and a lot of people had prior to this season beginning. So it's kind of a shame that they weren't able to get this done in Cincinnati. DK Metcalf seemed a little bit pissed off.
Yeah, he seemed frustrated. There were times when he was open, when he wasn't getting the ball. There was a moment where he sort of waved off, the offensive backfield. I'm not going to say it was Geno specific, but I do think the story of this was Cincinnati's defense. And to JP's point about their pass rush, you remember that AFC Championship game where they beat Kansas City, and there was that sequence at the end of the game where they got down, Kansas City got down late, 1st and goal, and everybody's thinking, look, this game's over. And they got a pair of pressures and I think 2 sacks when they just got 4 after Mahomes, and it was Hendrickson and Hubbard. The same scenario played out yesterday where since Seattle got down late, you get a Hendrickson sack with their rushing forward, just 3:27 left in the game. A Hubbard sack where they get home with 4, 2:08 left in the game. Now Cincinnati gets the bye, and coming out of the bye is that big game against the 49ers. And as we talked about, 30 minutes ago, the sort of blueprint for beating San Francisco is, can you get pressure with 4? Well, not that it's Myles Garrett and company, as we see with Cleveland, but this defense can do it too. And you get Burrow rested, that calf rested. The clowns that wrote a football court piece a couple of weeks ago about maybe the Bengals should tank, we kind of look a little silly right now, even pose it in that question. But this defense is very, very good. And if that offense gets Burrow completely healthy and they start spreading the ball around and all that stuff, Cincy could be in it to the end.
By the way, Mark, you mentioned the clowns that wrote that. Shout out, of course, to SBNation.com and all the work you all do. I can't believe I forgot to mention this, but it was a tab that was open nonetheless. James wrote something on Monday morning that is titled, "The Eagles Might Be Frauds, and It's Time That We Admit It." So I just wanted to make sure that
that's a spicy take.
The one fan base you just don't want to make.
Yeah.
And we saw James reached out to us last night, and he was throwing that proposed title at us. He's like, tomorrow is going to be an uncomfortable day for me.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I haven't read it all the way through, but I mean, honestly, like this is one of those like I just need to read the title, and I'm ready to assemble my take. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, there are two fan bases you do not want to poke. Eagles is definitely up there, and Jacksonville is another. Like, Jacksonville is a fan base that you do not want to poke that bear. They will like find you on the streets.
Look, man, we've been through the mud. Now we have a good team. Don't try and slander us. We will come for you. We will find you.
The Baltimore Ravens won the final game in London, Mark, 24-16. It was a solid outing from Baltimore. We're fast forwarding. Well, which one of you? We'll take this as Mark's fast forward. So JP, you have yours. One sentence, Mark, on the Ravens 24-16 win over the Titans.
They didn't blow a double-digit lead. They've done it in like 6 of their last 9 losses. They've blown like double-digit leads. They didn't do it. It seemed like even when Harbaugh was making curious decisions, they worked out. Like they could have tried the field goal before halftime. That was well within Tucker's range, and they decided, no, we're just going to punt it away and run out the half. Phillips then drops the punt and you get the field goal anyway. And so, everything sort of went Baltimore's way. Maybe it goes to the, if you have a London game, like get over early and get adjusted because Tennessee came over late. You saw how they played, but I'm just glad we hit the fast forward button on this one.
JP.
What the hell are the Tennessee Titans?
Yeah.
What is this team?
Yeah. My sentence was going to be, I've seen enough Ryan Tannehill, but I don't know what the better option is. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm kind of done with the Titans. Like,
Malik Willis needs to drink like 3 C4s, get himself like nice and wired in the pocket next time he plays because everything was so slow. I mean, how many times was Rich Eisen saying you cannot take a sack in this situation, and he immediately takes a sack?
It was so funny. It was the first play out of the screen pass where they got to the one. It's like you really can't take a sack here.
Yeah,
yard sack, and it's not just like nobody's open. Like it's just he's holding on to the ball so long. Like he's not trusting what he's seeing.
Yeah.
But the people clamoring for Will Levis did the same thing against worse competition. So if you want to see Will Levis, which I agree, like you got to see a little bit what you got. It's gonna look really bad. You're just not gonna look good, and it might be worth drafting the quarterback early because Will Levis was a 2nd round pick. You don't have to tie your boat to him.
For 2 dudes who were so anxious to fast forward to this game, you both wanted to say a lot about it. So
I just like fast talking.
The Washington Commanders outlasted the Atlanta Falcons 24-16. I don't know if you're chuckling because you want to fast forward to this, JP.
I'm not fast forwarding this one.
Okay. This is like we're getting to the tough part of the Falcons. This is not enjoyable to watch, despite the fact that Kyle Pitts had a touchdown, JP. Which is cool, but again, like this was such an ugly game. Like this was not. I don't know. Maybe you feel different. I didn't enjoy this in any way.
My fantasy team rejoiced that Kyle Pitts finally caught a touchdown. Thanks, Desmond Ridder, for finally getting it in the area code. But this was a poorly coached and poorly quarterbacked game for the Atlanta Falcons. It was, for some reason, Arthur Smith, every time he gets into the red zone, decides we're not going to run the ball. We're going to let Desmond Ridder be the hero. And you can see one of the interceptions, it was really bad. It was the one where he threw it directly to a DB, and Arthur Smith just loses his mind on the sideline. And he mouths to himself. And you can see on the TV, he just mouths to himself, just throw the fucking ball out of bounds. Like, it's just those type of things that separate, like, bare minimum quarterback play and being able to actually contend for a playoff spot against a team like the Falcons, where you're always consistently held back by the quarterback. The defense is fine to good. They play good football. The Commanders really couldn't find anything consistently outside of, converting the turnovers into points. But this Falcons team just annoys me so much because they can be so much better if they didn't tie their boat to a quarterback who's just not playing well right now.
Yeah, I mean, that second of the 3 interceptions was the one you were talking about, JP. It's a 0 blitz situation. It's 3rd and 7, 3rd and goal at the 7. Throw it out of the back of the end zone. Like he lofts up this he lofts up this back-footed throw on a corner route to Drake London that he underthrows by like 10 yards. Like, live for 4th down. Like, it's not 4th down. If it's 4th down, you got to make a throw. Fine. that was just brutal. Like the design on the third interception where you bump Bijan out, you see the linebacker go with him, like you get the matchup you want, make a better throw. Like just make a better throw. Like, and it certainly seems like Ridder just is not the answer here because they have so much talent around the quarterback position. You thought you would have gotten more production from the quarterback position as a result of the talent around him. And like we talked about last week, he had the sort of, is this the Desmond Ridder get right game? It was against a Texans secondary that, as JP pointed out last week, was missing 3 starters. Like, yeah, this isn't it.
I mean, JP, you laughed at this. Russell Wilson on the Falcons next year.
No.
Russell has not looked broken.
Doing this, man.
I mean, look, if the Broncos outright release him, I don't know how tenable this is, but this, like, they need, like, what is the path forward for them? You know what I mean? Like, that would be a significant upgrade, and that's really saying something here. I recognize that, but like, I don't want to watch the Titans in red and black. That's what the Falcons are at this point.
That's funny because one of the midseason trade destinations for Ryan Tannehill.
It's so stupid.
Yeah. The Atlanta Falcons. But Ryan Tannehill on the Atlanta Falcons would probably be a little better. That team's better with Ryan Tannehill as the quarterback. But, on the bright side for the Falcons is everybody in the division lost. You're still in this, if you want to say, like.
Is that really the bright side? Because they would just be like, all right, look, we're still in it. We can keep rolling Desmond Ridder out there.
You're still in it. You can still win the division and host the playoff game if you want. But I don't know if you want that right now.
2 weeks from now, by the way, the Falcons visit Nashville in what will be the grossest game of all time. Like,
can we please skip that one?
We will fast
forward. Can we hit the
fast
forward button now?
Yeah, we will then. We might as well, JP, you mentioned the division kind of cratering around them. The New Orleans Saints lost in Houston, 20-13, the final score. CJ Stroud threw his first career interception. On the return, it was fumbled, so Houston maintained possession. Just kind of a funny little quirk. It'll be a great Jeopardy answer someday, I'm certain. This Texans team is fun. Like, I mean, they're the baby Lions at this point. Like, they're a few steps further back in their rebuild and their process, but I don't know how anyone can enjoy watching this Texans team right now. And this Saints team, we all thought had a chance with their awful schedule, but I don't know. That might have been being way too generous with them and their potential.
Again, on the bright side for the Saints, everybody else lost. You're still in this one, baby. But the offensive line just is not great right now for the Saints. Trevor Penning was the starting left tackle. He got benched before the game, which is not great for a first-round pick that you traded up for to go get, and you traded with the Eagles for, and you see what the Eagles did with those picks. So doesn't look great. I don't get it with this team. The Saints defense is good, but the offense just consistently inconsistent. Like, outside of the big Rashid Shaheed touchdown and then some amazing Chris Olave plays, they can't move the ball. And it's weird because you bring in Derek Carr to get like some baseline QB play. But this team looks the exact same as they did last year, just with a little better receiving options. From the Texans' perspective, CJ Stroud is good, man. He's really good at this football thing. Even outside of the interception, the timing on the touchdown passes to Robert Woods, the big pass to Nico Collins downfield, it was just textbook. He looks so much like a polished NFL quarterback. And there's still room to grow for him. So if this is what he looks like in year one, the sky is the limit.
Mark, just quickly on Derek Carr, I just saw this. Maybe you've seen this before. This is a tweet from Action Network. Derek Carr is 17-33-2 against the spread as a starter in the NFL. Not a dude who you can really bet on in a literal and metaphorical sense, obviously.
Yeah. And, he threw for 353 yards, but there were yards left on the field. Like, he could have thrown for more. It was maddeningly inconsistent, the lack of execution in this passing game. And, as JP said, look, everybody else in the division lost, so you're still sort of in the mix here. And I still think that they're the best team in this division, but it's just a chaotic division. And, ultimately, I think they're going to be the team that wins this division and hosts a home playoff game. I'm not buying Atlanta, as we just talked about. I think we're starting to see a bit of the shine come off in Tampa Bay, and Carolina is 0-6. And so, yeah, there's that. But I'm not going to bet on this team. It's not, and it goes just beyond the Carr stuff. It's just like they are so inconsistent. They're inconsistent up front. And yes, this defense is good, but as we just saw, there are plays to be made against this defense. As for Houston, look, you're already at 3 wins. You won 3 wins. You won 3 games a season ago. You're well ahead of schedule.
House money.
Yeah, you're playing with house money, and you're making making RJ look great. I mean, remember, RJ was once saying they'd be like this, and here we are.
My man, Mark Schofield. Look at that. Michelle, if I can't win MF double MVP, I want it to be Mark, obviously. No offense, JP. Let's move on. I'm going to
2 weeks in a row.
I'm going to fast forward through the Vikings 19-13 win over the Bears.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think that one sentence, please, Mark. The Vikings do get the 6-point win without Justin Jefferson.
The Vikings won against the Chicago Bears without Justin Jefferson.
JP.
Never show me another Bears game ever again.
Yeah, my sentence is just I'm sad for the Bears and the Vikings.
Yeah.
This was a sad game.
This was a sad game.
JP, you do have your fast forward left. We have 2 games left, so just heads up. The LA Rams beat the Arizona Cardinals 26-9. So we're all kind of waiting with bated breath whether or not you want to discuss it. Okay, then JP, first sentence for you, please. After the Rams get to 500.
Looks like Josh Dobbs might be turning back into the pumpkin.
Mark.
Your evidence that big boy grilling on the roof football is back. How did the Rams open the second half? 9 straight run-in plays. A Sean McVay offense running it 9 times. I think that beat the previous high, which was, I think, 4 or 5 straight run-in plays a couple of seasons ago. Big boy grilling on the roof football may very well be back.
Yeah, good for the Rams. That's really all I have to say. Like, this was, tough scene for the Cardinals. Final game. None of us have a fast forward, but I don't think this will take long. It was the final game of the day. The Buffalo Bills survived on Sunday Night Football.
Wait, you skipped a game.
We skipped the game.
Mark, I'm so sorry.
We have not talked about our favorite team, New England Patriots.
We'll save the Bills. Mark, and that's funny because I'd locked up the Raiders on Friday's show. And I got that safety at the very end that covered because there was a 3-point line. So Mark, the Las Vegas Raiders, look, I'm trying to help you out, trying to forget that Josh McDaniels beat the New England Patriots.
Brian Hoyer comes to the game and it's just like throwing go routes and deep posts and just dunking on this team. Mac Jones.
It's a tough scene, man.
I almost had an aneurysm when he threw that interception. I mean, you saw it in the Slack. It was a string of all caps, none of which can be repeated on a family show. Is this how it ends? I mean, that's what I wrote today at .com. Is this how it ends for Bill Belichick? Like, it's just, and look, you're coming off a 38-3 loss, the worst of the Belichick era, a 34-0 loss to the Saints, which, I mean, as we just talked about, which was your worst home loss. And it was like, this one was worse than the other two. Because, like, you're losing against a bunch of familiar faces and Adam Butler and Josh McDaniel. You're losing on now Brian Hoyer. You take an unforgivable safety in the end zone after you can't hit a check down on the down before. You have a tight end chip and release and a right tackle try to block Max Crosby, and he just runs through him like it's a bag drill at the Senior Bowl. I mean, my goodness. And again, I'm not going to get sympathy from anybody. I get that.
You're
but
definitely
the Patriots are a bad football team.
JP, did you see this on the broadcast that the Patriots have had allowed 79 consecutive points at one point, which was the most in the NFL since 2000. The 99 Browns, which obviously are a well-known story and affiliated with Belichick. Tough scene, JP. But again, to Mark's point, like, I don't think, like, neither of us lost sleep on Sunday night over this. I mean, I actually lost memory of the game, but I mean, this, like, and Mark said familiar faces. It's not just the staff, like Jimmy Garoppolo and Brian Hoyer and Jacoby Myers. Like, you lost to Patriots light, and it would be
Adam Butler got a sack and was like, trashing Belichick in the locker room after the game. It's just like, oh my goodness.
If you lose to Josh McDaniels, JP, you got to go home. Like, that's the thing. Like, a loss to Matt Patricia would be less embarrassing, I think.
Speaking of losing to Josh McDaniels, Bill Belichick is 0-3 in his career against Josh McDaniels.
Oh my gosh,
things to consider. But anyway,
much to consider.
This team is bad. There's no comprehensible way of like trying to find any good things about this team. Like the defense, like yeah, sure, it's kind of fun. Keon White went out with a concussion. He's going to be on for a while. Most of the stars on this team are going to be gone for a while, and they all play on defense because you darn sure don't have a star on offense who can at least get them off the basement floor of quarterback play or even offense at this point. From the Raiders' perspective, Max Crosby is awesome. That's He's really they didn't do anything like impressive offensively that kind of stood out, but Max Crosby rules. He is in that top tier of edge rushers. He's played the most snaps of any defensive lineman over the past 2 seasons. Like he consistently leads every defensive lineman in snaps, but he never, ever, 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 ever gets tired. He does not miss snaps. He played every snap against the Patriots, and it's not the first time he's done it.
And look what he did on his last snap. Like, you're like 60 snaps deep into a game, and you're blowing by a chip in a right tackle. Like, what?
He's insane. He's an insane football player, among the top tier of edge rushers. But yeah, the Patriots are just not fun.
So the guaranteed money on Max Crosby's deal runs out after next season. What's to say in 2025? The Raiders aren't going anywhere before 2025. I'm manifesting this. Max Crosby, through some manner, joins the Detroit Lions in 2025 as the final piece to a championship run.
That would be the funniest edge rush duo.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like the funniest edge rushing class. Like, wow.
Yeah, remember this 2 years from now, or I guess a year and a half, but still remember this. Mark, do we see Malik Cunningham at any point this season, like in a serious sense?
I mean, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, look, the handwriting's on the wall. Like he was the number 2. Like Zappe was your number 3 emergency quarterback. Like, and partly because they wanted to use Malik in a variety of roles. Like under the rules, like your number 3 emergency QB can't play a non-QB position, so they want to at least leave that open. I think he starts at least 2 or 3 games at this point. Like, just because what else are you going to do? The Mac Jones experiment, it's not working.
The interception
it's not working.
So bad.
And it's like 2 weeks after he did it against Dallas. It's like, have you not learned at this point? Like, you're not that guy.
Look,
it's bad that he's regressing.
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest thing. He is regressing. It's not just the offense. Like you brought in an actual, like, you can see what the foundation or what the point of the offense is.
Yeah.
It's just the quarterback can't execute it. The offensive line can't execute it. You don't have any receivers outside of Demario Douglas, who's 5'7",
right?
Can create separation or do anything on offense. Every play, like they're throwing jump balls to Devontae Parker in 2023. Like, come on, man! Like, be serious.
I know y'all did not and do not enjoy my Russell Wilson to Atlanta take, but for the Kirk Cousins haters out there, the idea that Kirk Cousins is not going to make, but just in general, the idea that he's not going to make a stupid amount of money in the offseason is so ludicrous to me. I mean, like, how many teams have we talked about as being incredibly desperate? Like, Mark, again, maybe Kirk isn't the answer there, but New England is in that mix. New Orleans is in that mix. You could argue that Tennessee is in that mix. Atlanta is in that mix. Somebody is going to pay Kirk Cousins a gross amount of money to play football for them in 2024. So yeah, if I'm Kirk, like, I'm not going to move in the middle of winter. Like, I'm not waiving my no trade clause right now. I'm just going to wait till the offseason and let everybody kind of create a buyer's or a bidder's market. You know what I mean? Or a seller's market, excuse me. Like, JP, you were nodding. You agree. Kirk Cousins not the best available quarterback in 2024?
I mean, he probably is.
That's what I'm saying.
Unless anything, like,
sure, unless we have a random thing or whatever, but like the way it looks right now,
it's like him and like Kyler. But
if
Kyler's coming off an ACL injury.
But no, they still have his. No, this is his 5th year. You're right.
Well, he did sign to the extension, so it's more like he's available.
It's more like if they move on. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. On the open market, Kirk's the best one. You don't got to give up draft capital. It's going to be incredible. I got here too early, Mark. Apologies. But since you just talked about the Patriots, you should have to talk about the Bills, who are 4-2 thanks to a really gross win. I mean, it got actually kind of riveting at the very end. But 14-9, the final score. Yeah, I mean, Bills. I need James to write about them being frauds. But this was a tough game.
Well, this is the story of the Bills this year. I was on, WGR Saturday morning. The hosts were asking me, like, look, we play a team like Miami, a good team, and we play extremely well. Then we play some bad teams, and it's like we play to the level of competition, whether it's up or down. And that's like, you should have lost that game if you're Buffalo. Like, if Tyrod doesn't have that sort of like brain check moment right before halftime and they manage to get the field goal, we're talking about the Giants and Tyrod Taylor like winning this game. Like, this wasn't an inspiring confidence from Buffalo's standpoint. And for the Giants, look, the Giants are what they are at this point. This was the downfall of being a year ahead of schedule. Now you're a year behind schedule when everybody's hurt. But Buffalo plays to their level of competition. That's what we're seeing from them this season.
Why is that? Why is Tyrod Taylor checking into a run even an option?
Well, that's the bigger question, right? Like, if your cannon plays, that's on you. Because if you've given him the option and the look is, look, if we get this look from the front, you've got to check into the run.
Why are
you giving him that option?
Why are you giving him the option to check into a run with 6 seconds left and you have no timeout? Every play should be a pass. And that's not saying like you're on the goal line. Yeah, you can sneak it. But no, if you don't get it, then you miss that opportunity. Outside of that, Tyrod Taylor actually like moved the ball, which, it looks bad for Daniel Jones, especially because the verticality of Tyrod Taylor and that passing game was there a lot more than it was for Daniel Jones ever like this season. But for the Bills' perspective, this is just going to be a thing, especially with how injured they are on defense. They're just going to have to muck out these kind of games.
See, like, I am so annoyed that Josh Allen like tries to like embody that. Like, it's almost like Josh Allen is like, what is the most like physically violent way that I can do anything and everything all at once? Dude, just calm it down a little bit. You know what I mean? I just
fighting some linebackers apparently is on that list too.
Well, there was the skirmish, and it's like, yeah, like what do you? It was funny.
I mean, I love it. I love it.
Multiple things can be true. Like, it can be funny, it can be cool, it can be badass and get you riled up, but it can also be like a categorically irresponsible thing to do, right? Like, if you're the franchise quarterback who's paid all this money, like
the Josh Allen experience in a nutshell.
Yeah, right, like there, right? Just chill out a little bit. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like there's no need to prove you're some hard ass here. Like, like that's what it just kind of feels like sometimes, and it feels like the Bills are like that in general. But yeah, Mark, I'm gonna go on record right now. The Bills are gonna lose in New England on Sunday. That is going to happen. It's going to be the funniest thing ever. I know y'all are shaking your head because you can't believe it, but whatever. All right. One sentence on Monday Night Football, and then we hand out an award here. I will go and say that the Dallas Cowboys better win because Sunday provided a great opportunity to close the gap with San Francisco and Philadelphia. Mark.
Which team needs to win more? I mean, that's my big question. Which team needs to win more? I almost feel like Dallas, but it's close.
This game's going to have so many shenanigans. You put two teams that absolutely cannot like win in a normal way ever on primetime television where neither of them can win a normal game ever. This game will have so many just absolutely batshit things happen.
That's true. Rachel, if you could join us, please, and offer your takeaways from Week 6 Sunday action, and of course, hand out the coveted MF double MVP. That would make us very happy.
Sure. I don't like that you guys skipped my Ravens game. That should be a rule.
That was on Mark. That was on Mark.
It's okay.
It was on me?
I'm going to say no. I'm already did it.
No, I fast forwarded Vikings Bears. That was mine.
Okay, it's okay. It's okay. Stock up performances. Bobby Okereke. He looked really good Sunday night in that game. Also Amari Cooper, strong performance. It was sad to see, not rooting for the 49ers, but you never want to see injuries. So Christian McCaffrey was just like, dang, the fact that he went out, Deebo Samuel went out. And then for my Ravens, I love to see in addition to Lamar Jackson, you can never have too many strong performances from our kicker, Justin Tucker, who nailed like majority of his field goals. It was one that was like missed though. So that sucked to see. But yeah, today I really like JP's point about it was kind of like a tag team. RJ, you talked about how Gardner Minshew and how people don't really love him because he's not that good. That's what JP was saying. But then RJ was saying how it's more so like the character, like who he is and the stash that comes with it. Also, I don't know if I see the Bills losing to the Patriots. I don't believe that's going to happen. And then Kirk Cousins as the best available quarterback on the market. I mean, I guess. JP, I also really liked your point about the Bengals pass rush not getting enough credit right now. And Mark, I loved your points on this being the time to take the Lions to take them seriously, like they're legit. And also how pretty much this is the story of the Bills right now. And so today I'm going to give it to Mark. So hopefully this helps, even though the Patriots haven't been winning.
I'll take anything I can get right now because obviously the New England Patriots are a tough watch right now. But who knows? Maybe RJ's right. Maybe somehow they beat the Buffalo Bills. But I got to say, I don't see it happening.
Big weekend.
I think Mark has more MF double MVPs than the Patriots have wins.
Hey, at least the Patriots now finally have scored more points in the month of October than the Boston Red Sox. Because coming into yesterday, the Patriots had scored 3 points in 2 games, and the Red Sox had 6 runs in their one and only game in October, their last game of the season against the Orioles.
Hang the banner.
That is beautiful. I was going to say, Mark, you're heading into a big week with the United States Grand Prix. So you get to kind of work that on a normal time zone for a change.
Yeah, it's nice. I almost got to go down. Credentials were approved, but they came in late, so I'm not going to be able to make the trip. But it's going to be a fun week, and we get Mercedes versus Ferrari, which is going to be fun. We get Checo holding on, hopefully for second place for the drivers. Otherwise, Red Bull might do what Red Bull does. But it's going to be a fun week.
Mark will have you covered. JP will have you covered on Atlanta Falcons hatred. And Rachel will have you covered on all delightful things in the universe. JP, say something nice about Mark, and then let's leave.
Mark has a great hat. Great hat.
It's a nice hat, isn't it? Yeah. Alfie right there.